Have you ever watched a magic show? The magician makes the impossible seem real. Objects disappear, cards change, a rabbit emerges from an empty hat. We gasp, we applaud, we know it's a trick. But for a moment, we believe. Now imagine that same skill applied to real-world events, protests, rallies, news stories. What if these two were carefully constructed illusions designed to shape our perceptions and influence our beliefs? This is the world of staged events. A world where nothing is quite as it seems, where the line between reality and fabrication blurs, where powerful forces use the tools of deception to manipulate our understanding of the world. Staging an event is like building a movie set. It requires careful planning, meticulous attention to detail, and a deep understanding of human psychology. The goal is to create an experience so immersive, so emotionally resonant, that the audience suspends their disbelief and accepts what they are seeing as genuine. This manipulation can take many forms: planting fake news stories, orchestrating protests with paid actors, doctoring photos and videos. The methods are constantly evolving, driven by technological advancements and a sophisticated understanding of how to exploit our cognitive biases. The success of a staged event hinges on its ability to tap into our emotions: fear, anger, outrage. These are powerful motivators that can short-circuit our critical thinking and make us more susceptible to manipulation. In an age of information overload, it's harder than ever to separate fact from fiction. We are bombarded with news from countless sources, each with its own agenda and biases. This creates fertile ground for staged events to take root and flourish. The consequences of this manipulation can be profound. It erodes trust in institutions, it fuels social divisions, it undermines our ability to make informed decisions about the world around us. But there is hope. By understanding the techniques used to stage events, we can become more discerning consumers of information. We can learn to spot the telltale signs of manipulation, and we can start to reclaim our ability to see the world with clear eyes. Staging a live event, whether a political rally, a product launch, or even a spontaneous street protest, involves a surprising level of orchestration. Think of it as a theatrical production, meticulously planned and executed to evoke a specific response from its audience, in this case, the public. It all starts with a goal. What message do the orchestrators want to convey? What emotions do they want to stir? Once the objective is clear, the stage is set, literally and figuratively. Location scouting is key. A public square, a university campus, or even a controlled environment like a conference hall, each venue lends itself to a different narrative. Logistics are everything. Transportation, crowd management, security, all these elements need to be seamlessly coordinated. And then there are the technical aspects: sound systems, lighting, even strategically placed cameras to capture the money shot, the image or video clip designed to go viral and cement the event in the public consciousness.
In today's hyper-connected world, the media plays a crucial role in amplifying the impact of staged events. A carefully crafted press release, timed to perfection, can set the narrative before the event even takes place. Inviting select journalists or influencers known to be sympathetic to the cause further ensures favorable coverage.
Social media adds another layer to this carefully constructed ecosystem. Pre-prepared hashtags, strategically placed influencers, and coordinated online campaigns can create an illusion of widespread grassroots support, even if the event itself is anything but organic.
The goal is to control the message, to flood the information ecosystem with a single, unified narrative. Dissent is silenced, alternative viewpoints are drowned out, and the desired narrative takes hold in the public imagination.
At the heart of every staged event is a compelling story. This narrative is carefully crafted to resonate with the target audience, tapping into their existing beliefs, fears, and aspirations. The story needs to be simple, emotionally engaging, and easy to digest in our fast-paced media landscape. Facts and evidence often take a back seat to emotional appeals. Personal anecdotes, heart-wrenching testimonials, and righteous indignation are the tools of the trade. The goal is not to inform, but to persuade to bypass critical thinking and trigger an emotional response. The script often includes carefully placed sound bites, short, memorable phrases designed to be easily quoted and shared. These sound bites become the building blocks of the narrative, repeated and amplified until they take on a life of their own. No staged event is complete without its cast of characters. These can be real people, carefully chosen for their ability to evoke sympathy or outrage, or paid actors trained to seamlessly blend into the crowd. Their role is to add authenticity to the spectacle, to make the staged event feel real and relatable. A charismatic speaker, a victim with a heart-wrenching story, an ordinary citizen expressing outrage. These characters become the human face of the event. Their carefully scripted words and actions designed to tug at the heartstrings and solidify the desired narrative. The success of a staged event often hinges on the authenticity of its players. If the audience senses that something is off, that the emotions are forced or the story's fabricated, the entire facade can crumble.
Few events in history illustrate the chilling effectiveness of a staged event quite like the Reichstag fire of 1933. On February 27th, the German parliament building, the Reichstag, was engulfed in flames.
The Nazi government, newly in power but still consolidating its grip, blamed the fire on communist agitators. This dramatic event, later revealed to be a carefully orchestrated act of arson likely carried out by the Nazis themselves, provided the pretext for Hitler to consolidate his power.
The fire was used to justify the suspension of civil liberties, the arrest of political opponents, and the passage of the Enabling Act, which effectively gave Hitler dictatorial control over Germany.
The Reichstag fire was a masterclass in political theater. It played on existing fears of communist subversion, created a sense of national crisis, and provided a convenient scapegoat for the Nazis to consolidate their power. The event, though later exposed as a fabrication, had a profound impact on the course of history, paving the way for the horrors of Nazi Germany.
In 1990, a young Kuwaiti girl delivered tearful testimony before the US Congress, identifying herself as Nayyirah. She described Iraqi soldiers storming a Kuwaiti hospital.
This testimony galvanized public opinion for US intervention in the Gulf War. But the story was fabricated. Nayyirah was the Kuwaiti ambassador's daughter. Her testimony was part of a PR campaign by the Kuwaiti government. It shows the power of emotional manipulation in justifying war.
The 2003 invasion of Iraq was predicated on the claim that Saddam Hussein's regime possessed weapons of mass destruction, posing an imminent threat to the United States and its allies.
This claim, presented as irrefutable fact by the Bush administration, was the central justification for a war that would claim hundreds of thousands of lives and destabilize the entire region. Yet, despite an extensive search effort, no WMDs were ever found in Iraq.
The intelligence used to justify the war was later revealed to be flawed, if not outright fabricated. The Bush administration, it seemed, had staged an elaborate charade, using the specter of WMDs to sell a war based on false pretenses.
The Iraq War highlights the dangers of unchecked power and the ease with which governments can manipulate information and stage events to achieve their geopolitical objectives. The consequences of such deception can be catastrophic, eroding trust in institutions and leaving a legacy of instability and violence. In today's digital age, the line between reality and fabrication is blurrier than ever. The rise of social media with its echo chambers and filter bubbles has created fertile ground for the spread of misinformation and disinformation.
Staged events, once the domain of governments and powerful institutions, are now within the reach of anyone with an internet connection and a desire to manipulate the narrative. From doctored photos and videos to fabricated news articles and social media posts, the tools of deception are readily available and easily deployed.
The consequences of this manufactured reality are far-reaching, fueling political polarization, eroding trust in institutions, and undermining our shared sense of reality. As we navigate this increasingly complex information landscape, it is more important than ever to be critical consumers of information. We must learn to distinguish between fact and fiction, to question our assumptions, and to be wary of narratives that confirm our existing biases. Why are we so susceptible to staged events, even when evidence to the contrary exists? The answer lies in the complex interplay of psychology, sociology, and how we perceive the world. Our brains seek patterns, make quick judgments, and rely on social cues. We are bombarded with an overwhelming amount of information daily. To cope, our brains develop cognitive shortcuts, heuristics for quick decisions. These shortcuts can lead to biases, making us vulnerable to manipulation. We are social creatures looking to others for cues on behavior. This social conformity can be a powerful tool for manipulation. Our brains are masters of taking shortcuts. Cognitive biases are mental shortcuts that help us make sense of the world quickly. One such bias is confirmation bias, our tendency to seek out information that confirms our beliefs. We tend to be more critical of information that challenges our beliefs. Another bias is the availability heuristic, overestimating the likelihood of memorable events. Dramatic events stick in our minds, making them seem more common. Emotions are powerful drivers of human behavior. When we experience strong emotions like fear, anger, or outrage, our ability to think critically and rationally can be impaired. This is known as emotional hijacking, a state where our emotional brain takes over, overriding our more rational prefrontal cortex. Staged events often exploit this phenomenon by triggering strong emotional responses in their audience. Images of suffering, stories of injustice, and appeals to patriotism or fear can short-circuit our critical thinking, making us more susceptible to accepting information that aligns with our emotional state, regardless of its veracity. This emotional manipulation is particularly effective when it taps into our existing fears and prejudices. By playing on our deepest anxieties, staged events can bypass our rational defenses, planting seeds of doubt and distrust that can be difficult to uproot. Humans are social animals. We are hardwired to conform to the behaviors and beliefs of those around us. This social conformity, while essential for social cohesion, can also make us vulnerable to manipulation, especially in group settings. Social contagion refers to the rapid spread of emotions, ideas, and behaviors through a crowd. When we see others reacting strongly to an event, especially if those others are part of our in-group, we are more likely to adopt those same emotions and behaviors, even if we don't fully understand the situation. Staged events often exploit this phenomenon by creating the illusion of widespread support for a particular cause or belief. A small group of paid actors or fervent believers can create a cascade effect, their enthusiasm and outrage spreading through the crowd like wildfire. In a world often characterized by uncertainty and chaos, we crave a sense of order and control. We want to believe that we understand the world around us, that there are explanations for seemingly random events, and that someone is in charge. Staged events, with their carefully crafted narratives and clear-cut heroes and villains, offer us a comforting illusion of control. They provide simple explanations for complex issues, reassuring us that someone is in control and that things are not as chaotic as they seem. This need for control can make us more willing to accept staged events as real, even when evidence to the contrary exists. We cling to the narratives that offer us comfort and control, even if those narratives are based on deception and manipulation. This need for control can make us more willing to accept staged events as real, even when evidence to the contrary exists. We cling to the narratives that offer us comfort and control, even if those narratives are based on deception and manipulation. Imagine a world where you can't trust your own eyes, where the very events you witness could be elaborate fabrications designed to mislead you. This is the insidious consequence of staged events. They chip away at the foundation of our shared reality, eroding trust in institutions, the media, and even our fellow citizens.
When we discover that an event we believed to be genuine was, in fact, staged, it casts a long shadow of doubt. Were those protests really grassroots movements, or were they orchestrated by hidden interests? Was that viral video evidence of a crime or a clever fabrication designed to mislead?
The uncertainty breeds cynicism and suspicion, making it difficult to distinguish between truth and falsehood. This erosion of trust has profound implications for a functioning society. Democracy relies on an informed citizenry capable of making reasoned judgments. If we can no longer agree on basic facts, if we are constantly questioning the veracity of information, it becomes increasingly difficult to engage in meaningful dialogue and make informed decisions. In the digital age, the internet has become both a powerful tool for information sharing and a breeding ground for misinformation. Social media platforms, with their personalized algorithms and filter bubbles, often trap us in echo chambers where we are predominantly exposed to information that confirms our existing biases.
Staged events thrive in these environments. A carefully crafted narrative, once introduced into an echo chamber, can quickly take on a life of its own. Shared and reshared among like-minded individuals, the narrative is amplified and reinforced, even if it is based on false or misleading information.
This echo chamber effect makes it incredibly difficult to break free from the grip of staged events. Surrounded by those who share our beliefs, we are less likely to encounter dissenting viewpoints or evidence that challenges our worldview. The result is a self-perpetuating cycle of misinformation, where staged events are not only accepted as real but actively defended and promoted. The power of staged events lies in their ability to shape public opinion, influence policy decisions, and even incite violence. In the wrong hands, these carefully crafted narratives can become weapons, deployed to sow discord, discredit opponents, and advance hidden agendas.
Authoritarian regimes have long understood the power of propaganda and staged events to control their populations. By controlling the narrative, suppressing dissent, and manufacturing consent, these regimes can maintain their grip on power, even in the face of widespread opposition.
But the weaponization of narratives is not limited to authoritarian states. Political campaigns, special interest groups, and even corporations increasingly employ these tactics to advance their agendas. Fake grassroots movements, astroturfing campaigns, and carefully curated online personas are just some of the ways in which staged events are used to manipulate public opinion and influence decision-making.
The danger of staged events extends beyond their immediate impact. These fabricated narratives can shape our understanding of the past and influence our perceptions of the present.
History is written by the victors. But what happens when history itself is staged? Consider the Reichstag fire. This orchestrated event, an act of Nazi arson, had a profound impact on history.
It allowed Hitler to consolidate power and justify the suppression of civil liberties.
Remember the tale of the emperor's new clothes? Two swindlers convince a vain emperor they have woven him a magnificent suit, visible only to the truly intelligent. The emperor, blinded by vanity, pretends to see the clothes, parading naked. It takes a child's innocent voice to declare the truth. The emperor has no clothes. Like the emperor's court, we too can be blinded by our own biases and fears. This desire for order makes us vulnerable to staged events, offering comforting illusions. Staged events often leave telltale signs, inconsistencies, improbable coincidences. By spotting these red flags, we can see through the spectacle and discern reality from illusion. In an age of information overload, critical thinking is a necessity. It's the ability to question assumptions, evaluate evidence, and form independent judgments. Start by cultivating a healthy skepticism. Cross-check information with multiple sources. Be wary of narratives that evoke strong emotional responses. Who is behind the message? What are their motivations? The responsibility for discerning truth from falsehood does not rest solely on individuals. Journalists, educators, and policymakers play crucial roles in combating misinformation and promoting media literacy. Journalists must uphold the highest standards of ethics, including rigorous fact-checking and avoiding sensationalism. Investigative journalism is vital in exposing staged events and holding power accountable. Educators must equip students with critical thinking skills to navigate the digital age. Policymakers should promote transparency, support media literacy, and enact accountability legislation. The fight against misinformation is about creating a media ecosystem where truth flourishes and critical thinking is encouraged.